This is why the whales get so big when they feed on plankton. When you dive into the depths of the fantastic world of whales, the biggest, most magnificent, and awesome mammals in the world, you start asking many questions. You wonder why those creatures are so beautiful, mysterious, and overall magical. How they got back into the water after living so long on land, mastered echolocation, and most importantly, how they became so huge. The lives of whales are full of mysteries, and cetologists, scientists who specialize in whales, porpoises, and dolphins, always try to get into the minds of these giants to see how they live, how they spend their spare time, and how they procreate. A dream job, if you ask me. One of the most interesting things about whales that fascinates scientists and even regular people around the world is their diet. It is a giant whale mystery how these beautiful biggies can be so huge when the most grand of them eat only plankton and small fish for dinner. That's one thing to become a somewhat big animal while eating small prey, like an anteater for example. But it's a whole other thing to become the biggest animal that ever lived on this planet when you eat something as minuscule as krill. So today, we will try to find out the answer to the burning question we all have. Why the whales got to be so big when they only live on plankton? There's something about whales. You may think that it's easy to find out why some animals are bigger than others. For example, in 2006, American entomologists discovered that the size of insects is determined by the amount of oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. That's why during the Paleozoic era, the times with increased atmospheric oxygen levels, all these bugs could be up to 60 centimeters long. Not a very pleasant picture. But as for whales, their evolutionary path was really tricky and long. We know that they were relatively small land-living mammals and then came back to waters to become not very big marine animals. Scientists still don't know exactly the mysterious ways of how whales' eating preferences helped them become so big. But these two factors are definitely closely linked. First of all, not all whales eat plankton. Nowadays, scientists determine two parvorders of whales: Odontoceti or toothed whales and Mysticeti or baleen whales. These two big branches separated more than 34 million years ago, and since then they went two extremely different ways. Toothed whales were destined to acquire a brand new set of awesome teeth that helped these mammals to become a little bit more aggressive in the sea. Some more peaceful members of the Odontoceti family, like dolphins, started eating fish and squids. But others, like orcas, are one of the most dangerous creatures on the planet and proud members of the Odontoceti clan. As apex predators, these beautiful whales can eat whatever they want, and they eat other mammals like sea lions, fish, sharks, and even birds. As for our sweet friends baleen whales, they decided to stick with the gifts of their ancestors and keep beautiful baleens that help them catch clueless crustaceans and gain an extra ton of weight on those delicious little fellas. However, even though toothed whales have respectable sizes, they're far from being as big as their baleen brothers and sisters. And that makes the mystery of the success of Mysticeti's diet even more interesting. How whales got their feeding technique. The most extensively researched part of whales' eating process is the eating routine itself. Baleen whales have a filter feeding system that consists of keratin hair called baleen. These hairs are also called bristles, and they can be huge, from half a meter to 3.5 meters in length. The exact method of feeding is extremely simple. To catch thousands of little krills, a whale needs to open its mouth and take in a huge amount of water. After that, a whale releases the water through baleens, and every one of the little crustaceans who happen to be in that water now becomes a whale's dinner. A whale can consume about 500 kilograms of krill during the process, but it's far from enough food for our big friend. A typical whale needs somewhere between 3 to 8 tons of crustaceans a day to support its body. That's a lot of tiny crustaceans. So now we know how the whales do it. So let's get down to the theories. why are they so big on a less than appealing diet of small krills? The climate change theory. Scientists found out that ancient baleen whales were a lot smaller than their modern descendants. Most of them were no more than 32.8 feet, 10 meters long, and that's quite a big difference from what we have today. So, this theory postulates that about 4.5 million years ago, the melting of the glaciers provoked a huge increase in the population of phytoplankton, the main food source of crustaceans. Small krills got so many little creatures on their plates that it caused a baby boom in their community. With such a big amount of food in the ocean, some whales were able to get an advantage and start gaining weight, which helped them travel more in the waters to get even more food. However, these oceans full of crustaceans became a disaster for smaller whales. They just couldn't survive in those conditions, so smaller baleen whales went extinct. Back then, being big meant being alive, so the evolution of whales who've taken their path of becoming bigger than ever led them to prosperity. The energy theory. This fascinating theory was presented by a specialist from Stanford University. According to this idea, marine mammals, being homeothermic species, need a lot of energy to keep themselves warm in unpleasant waters of the ocean. That's why whales need to eat very much to compensate for the loss of energy. But even that's not enough. The key to successful living in the ocean and maintaining a healthy and warm lifestyle is in the baleen whale's method of eating. The whole process I mentioned earlier helps big whales get enough food to keep up with their grand proportions and not lose much energy on hunting their prey. That's why orcas and dolphins are much smaller than blue whales, even though they eat much more nutritious food. They just move around too much. The protection theory. Evolving to become bigger than your biggest enemy is not rare in history. Many animals demonstrate signs of co-evolution with other species, and once a predator becomes a little bigger, their prey becomes bigger too, or that species dies. Some scientists think that to survive in the harsh reality of the prehistoric ocean and cope with giant sharks and other huge predators, baleen whales who didn't get big teeth like Odontoceti siblings chose the path of getting bigger and stronger. As we see today, it helped them a lot. At least until people came to the evolutionary arena. And now we need to protect our dear giant friends from total extinction. The specialization theory. Many mammals eat small crustaceans, but no one does it like baleen whales. And no one eats so much, to be honest. They're very nutritious, full of protein, and according to whales, very tasty. So, when that climate change hit the earth and some whales became specialized in eating krill, it gave them an extreme advantage. They could eat a really big amount of krill on a daily basis with not very many competitors in their way. In the end, it resulted in a huge size and very specific specialization. So, which one of these theories do you like the most? In my opinion, as with most events in evolution, it's quite possible that all of the factors contributed to the process. I hope that we'll learn this whale secret one day, but until then, let's just admire these amazing water creatures and try to save them for future generations. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, and I also recommend you to hit the bell button so you'll receive notifications every time I upload a new video. Thank you very much.